This is a Glass Box Media podcast.
Yeah. No, you never know. Like people's kinks are.
Speaking of kinks, oh my God. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole because I was listening to a podcast that we will not name, and they were talking about how Napoleon liked, like, he had a kink for like smelling women's like armpits, like you know, people's smells. That was like his like kink, you know what I mean? And so then I was just like, I wonder what other famous people's kinks were. And so I was like looking it up, and a lot of them were just like, you know, things that I wouldn't want to talk about on the podcast. But there was one was Lord Byron. You know, like at the time you would take like a lock of hair from your sweetheart or whatever as a keepsake.
Okay.
He did that, but with pubic hair. He took like locks of pubic hair and then kept them like cataloged.
That makes sense.
And like,
I actually just did an insane deep dive because I was going to do. Funny that you mentioned Lord Byron, because I was going to do Mary Shelley.
Oh yes,
for Crazy in Love, and then I was like, well, maybe it's very Halloweeny, and I'm like, we're in November now, and I'm like, I really wasn't digging it, but Lord Byron is such a big part of that story.
He is. Yeah, he is for sure.
Interessante.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they were saying also about Rasputin and like all of his weird kinky stuff. But the one that was the weirdest was the cutting off of the virgin's hair. He's like, he thought that like virgin hair was like a protectant. So he would like have people bring him virgin's hair and then put it in his walls. Which seems like a fire hazard.
I don't like.
It's not good insulation, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Imagine if you
Russia's cold.
Yeah. Like we're like, I want an open floor plan. Let's
knock
take
down
out
these
this
walls.
wall. And then you open the wall and it's full of fucking hair.
Oh my God, like dusty ass ancient hair. Oh, I don't know if there's anything that would creep me out more.
Toenails.
Yep. Yeah. After talking about the toenail ring.
Yep.
Body crumbs.
Of the body crumbs.
Of all body crumbs.
That's the one that would probably creep me out the most. I do hair for a living, and I would just assume that somebody was collecting like their baby's hair, like a little lockets of baby hair.
Full wall of it?
Okay. Well,
I feel like you are doing something unsavory if you have a full wall of hair. I would be like
well,
someone was
maybe
murdered.
they had like an internal system of like I would rationalize this. I'm the person that finds like a hair in my food, and because I'm a hairstylist, I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. Pull it out and eat the rest. You know?
Yeah. I literally everything in my house is covered in cat hair, so I'm just like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Again, of the body crumbs, hair is probably my least worrisome.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like hair doesn't really bother me, but I feel like en masse. Like, you know, like if it was like buckets of it, I'd be like, I'm concerned.
I would be like, did they just do all their kids' cuts and then it like leaked it? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a lifetime supply of doing house haircuts.
You know what might be worse for me than toenail or fingernail clippings is a wall full of teeth. What if it was teeth?
Oh, teeth.
Oh, well, then
no.
I don't consider that a body crumb, I will say.
No rationalizing that.
That's murder.
Many
Murder
murders.
was the case that you gave me.
Or
like,
what if it was just like every time your friends' kids lost their teeth, you were just like, can I have that?
I still don't.
Can I have those?
I still don't like that.
I low-key don't like it that I think my mom still has all of our teeth.
No.
Probably somewhere. I don't like that either.
I literally just got a full body chill.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't.
I mean, like I know it's cold in my house, but
no, I don't like teeth.
I don't like that. No, that's you're right. That's the worst.
That's the worst.
You know, there's a whole like thing of Victorian jewelry that's made out of teeth. Like and people people want it, and I'm like, I don't want someone's tooth in my ring or
It
whatever.
kind of creeps me out, like the people who are like, I want my gallbladder, or I want that gallstone, or that kidney
want my
stone. I want to
yeah.
save that thing that came out of me that fucked me up so hard.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
Yeah, it's very
I think
weird.
it's weird. I know there's people who are like,
throw it away. You don't need
I
it
don't need
anymore.
it. I don't want it.
No.
What do you do with it?
And why do you want a reminder of something that was so like terrible?
You know what? This felt like shit. I thought I was going to die.
I'm going to put it in a
keep
tiny vial and keep it in my closet.
and wear it around my neck.
So weird.
I'm going to make a necklace out of that.
Yeah, guys.
Yucky wisdom tooth that I had to get cut out of my face. Please, let's never do that.
No.
I don't. Wow.
Throw your body crumbs away in the proper receptacle. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dispose of it
service.
properly.
I really don't know
more
how
you
to
know.
transition this into
Out of this?
Well,
something else.
I know what I want to talk about today, and that is Keegan's fucking crazy ass shit that she dealt with this week. Like, I got to be honest with you. I
got hot.
I was legitimately sweating a little bit.
Well, okay, here's the thing. So I've been working background since I quit my job, and if I'm like, oh, I need extra money or whatever, I'll work background. And background's great in a lot of ways. It's fun in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it's also very weird. You can meet some of the best people that I've actually like become friends with. I've seen on like many sets, like over and over. Or you can meet the weirdest people, like just the weirdest people on set. And usually, especially if you're on like a 3-day thing like I was, we worked 3 15-hour days. And like when you're on something like that, they'll pair you with someone and then you're with that person the entire time, essentially. Like usually, or they might move you, but usually you're like with the same people. And so they paired me with this guy. And he was just a little odd. Like he was odd, like kind of the whole time. But then he was like trying to make small talk with me on the first day. And, I'm on a set that is mostly like Latinx people. And so people would come up to me and talk to me in Spanish. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And they'd be like, oh, are you not Latina? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I look it, so I get, put on these sets a lot.
Ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah. And so like that person walked away and he was like, so what is your ethnicity? And I was like, oh, I'm half black and half white. Both of my sides of my family have been in America for so long that's it. There's no real like
Right.
breaking it down any better than that. And he was like, oh, you don't look it. Which, first of all,
Yes.
I fucking hate when people do that, as if there is a look.
Right.
Like
there's
as
a
if
specific look.
there's a specific look.
I mean, literally look at Christina and you, both biracial, and neither of you look the same.
No.
So how in the fuck could you ever?
And by this
put
guy's
a
standards, neither one of us would look quote unquote half black either.
Yeah.
Because he had a very narrow definition of what that looked like. So, but
It's like it's Halle Berry, the end.
But like I get that like pretty often, especially on sets like this. So I was just like, yeah, I get that. And
Especially because of the casting was very specific toward.
Yeah. And so it made sense. But then he was just like, half black girls are gorgeous. And I was like, okay, like cool, I guess that you think that. And then he was like, not that you're not, like you're pretty too, but like girls who actually look half black are like the most gorgeous. Like,
oh my
like
God.
guys, like girls who have like black features but like light skin, like are so pretty. And I was just like,
I want to flip
I
a
don't
table.
know what part of this conversation makes me the most
Offended.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, because really I could care less about whether or not a person thinks I'm attractive. Like that, that's whatever. You're a stranger to me. I don't really care if you think that I'm the most beautiful person you've ever looked at.
But also on a daily basis, you wouldn't have somebody come up and be like, hey, you're not the most attractive person I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
you know what? You're not the
Thanks.
most attractive mixed person I've ever met.
Wow.
Like, and then it's also just like this weird
It's so fetishy.
fetishization of mixed people, one, and then two, it's so offensive, it's so colorist also to be like, I like black girls who look black but aren't dark skinned is like really upsetting. I was just like, everything about this interaction, and there's just like nothing you could do, and
Like,
you could
how
tell
do
he knew
what do
he
you
put
say?
his foot in his mouth, but
Several feet. I think he was putting feet in his mouth that weren't his.
yeah,
At this point.
you
All the
know,
feet.
and then I was with him for the next 2 days, so it just kind of had to be this thing where you had to like be okay with it. But Yeah, I don't know. It's also like offensive to Latinas too. It's like offensive to everyone.
Yeah.
It's
First of all,
offensive across the board.
I personally, I just hate the question generally.
What are you?
I mean, in this setting,
Who
don't
cares?
I don't love it. In this setting, the only reason why I was like, it kind of makes sense because so many people are coming up and talking to me in Spanish. And also the kind of cool thing about this particular set is because the Latinx community is so broad and there's so many like facets of it,
right?
That everyone was having the conversation of like, oh, my family's from Nicaragua, my family's from Colombia, my family's from Mexico. So everyone was kind of having that conversation.
Okay.
So to me, that was okay because it was kind of cool for everyone to be able to experience their cultures.
But that's the exception to the rule.
Right, absolutely.
You definitely get that question all the time.
And completely out of context all the time.
Exactly.
And especially when I lived in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I have the best story about being fetishized for my quote unquote ethnicity.
Oh,
okay.
It's the fucking fun. I'm the whitest of white people, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I don't think you come up to me like, oh, what is your ethnicity? But that happened to me
interesting.
one time in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I was in a salon and the salon owner was like, oh, what is your like nationality? Like, what is your, where
ethnic background?
Background, right? And I was like, mostly French. And he looked me, I'm not kidding you, T to B, and was like, I can tell. He's like, are you into BDSM?
Oh, why? What a weird leap.
Who raised you?
Yes.
You were at your
job. I was working. I was there representing a company that he had in his salon.
Yeah. Let me just say.
Where is the link?
Again, there's so much wrong with that conversation. Because to Christina's point, let me just say, in life in general, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't go up to someone and be like, especially if someone is like clearly an ethnic minority, but to anybody. But like if someone's clearly an ethnic minority, do not go up to them and be like, what are you? Like it's
human
weird
fucking being.
if it comes up in a conversation with them, like you guys are talking and like that sort of
naturally came up. Yeah.
Then that's different. But I've had people come up to me.
Just come up before even saying hello.
And it's very uncomfortable. There's also, it's along the same lines of like, don't come up and touch my hair if I don't know you. And like, so I don't know. There is something very weird and fetishy about it. And I've also had people give me that line that I know I've talked to you about, Christina, where they say like, oh, you're different than other black girls, or you're pretty for a black girl, or like any of that stuff.
Pretty for a anything.
Pretty for a anything.
That's not good.
I hate that.
You know what I'm going to start doing? I think when people ask me that question now, like, what are you? I'm going to be like, oh, shark.
Baby shark. Do.
I just, or just make something up. I'm like, oh, I'm half lamp. You know what I mean? Like, just, it's a ridiculous question, and you'll get a ridiculous answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a weird interaction, and I got to know that guy better, and I think maybe he was just feeling uncomfortable, and he wasn't terrible for the whole 3 days. Like, it was okay, but that conversation just threw off my whole day. Like, because I just thought I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was like, what a weird thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
No. Honestly, too, you kind of just want to be like, is this a good learning lesson for you, sir? So I can kind of school you on, like, and not just like in a let me school you, but like also be like, that's just not really an appropriate thing to ask somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's hard to do though, like if you're like
in that situation.
Work, basically.
Right. It was hard to do because I mean I thought about being like, saying that you like black features but not black women is kind of a weird thing to say and not an okay thing to say. And I thought about saying that, but then I was like, I'm going to be with this guy for the next like 3 days, and like working long days. And, so I'm just like, I'm just going to, sometimes you're exhausted.
It's also not your job to educate.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
You don't have to.
Maybe he'll listen to this episode.
Here's hoping.
Maybe.
Well, I had a bit of an epiphany last night on a date, and I'd like to chat about it.
Your blurry selfie that you sent us was great. like a dark bar selfie.
Spit my coffee out. That selfie
was
the best
it
picture
kind of
ever.
looked like you accidentally took a picture of yourself and then sent it.
That's pretty much what happened.
I kind of was like, was this meant to be sent?
So I had a great date last night. I went and met a person, but as I was getting ready, I realized, okay, so I've been dating or on the dating market now for like 2 years. And I realized when I was going to meet this guy that I was truly like no agenda or expectations.
Sure.
You know, when I first started dating, and I was talking to you about this morning, where I don't have dating experience. I went straight from high school into Shadowbox, which it was its own thing. It wasn't real dating. And so I thought you had to be clear about what you're looking for. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So when I was on Tinder, at first it was like, oh, I just want to keep it casual. Oh, like, you know, maybe friends. And then as the years went by, now I'm like, oh, I'm looking for something serious. But the epiphany was, long story short-ish, I feel like I'm just open to meeting people and letting things be what they're going to be. Because I feel like if you go in with the mindset like I'm looking for this, you might miss an opportunity to have a friend, or maybe somebody is just supposed to be just a casual fun night, or maybe they are like wedding material. But if you go in and pigeonhole, you might miss those things. So yeah, that was my dating epiphany. I had a really good time with somebody last night, and there you go. It made me be more in the present too.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing so much like, what would this guy be like around my friends? What would this guy be like? Blah, blah, blah. You know, it just let me be in the moment and focus and just have a good time.
I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, I do. I think that that's a great idea. I think, you know, being cautious is of course good, and making sure you're like protecting yourself and protecting your heart is good. But outside of that, I kind of think that you should allow all opportunities. Like, just let everything come and deal with it as it comes.
Yeah.
I think that that's a good idea.
It feels like living in the moment, and it put me in a really calm, just really cool headspace where I felt really open and happy about meeting someone.
How many times have I talked to you guys about like going on auditions, and like really the less you, I don't want to say less you care, but the less like freaked out you are going into any room, or the less you're putting expectations on yourself or the situation, usually the better you do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I think you're presenting a more authentic version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's probably the same for dating. Like if you just go in and you're just like, you know what, this is going to be what it is. I'm just going to be who I am, and it's going to turn out how it's going to turn out.
Right.
And that's it.
And you
know?
have no expectations or agenda on the person that you're meeting. You just truly open to
or
letting
on
it
yourself.
be. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like I would put a lot of pressure on me to be like a certain way, especially if you can picture this person in your life and you're like, okay, well maybe I need to be what they would want so that they call me again or whatever. And it's kind of like, yeah, the more you let go of that, the better it'll be, I think.
Yeah. So I had fun. And
Awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully maybe this helps people out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I felt slow to coming to that realization, because it seems like such a, I don't know, no brainer, but
no, but I think you're absolutely right, because I think that we stress so much about, like we've said before, even here, like be very clear about what your expectations are. So when you are in that mindset, you do go in with your own expectations of like, you didn't make it clear that you were only here for a hookup, or you didn't make it clear that you were this person or that person, or what, you know.
But I think you can do both. I think you can
exactly.
be honest on like your profiles about like what you're looking for, what your goals are ultimately, and also go into a date knowing like this might not be that. And like, that's okay too, if it's not that.
Right.
But you don't need to change your own expectations. But
I think that the other side of that coin is that if you do keep your mind open, maybe you aren't looking for the one. Sometimes you accidentally run into the
Yes,
one.
exactly.
And that's exactly how it was for like Chris and I wasn't looking for the one when I met Chris. I was just looking to, like, I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't looking for a relationship. And I think that was the time when I finally was just like, you know what? I'm totally okay being alone. And I'm, if this turns into something, great. If not, fucking great too.
Exactly.
And then that's when it like happened for me, because I didn't, like you said, and you're right. Like, I did that at like 23, 24, but I had a different scenario coming out versus being kind of in a cult situation where you were kind of a little bit closed in this capsule of what.
Yeah, it wasn't real dating,
Yeah.
there. It was,
So I know you're saying, and I think what happens for you a lot is that you beat yourself up a little bit about the where you are in life, or where you are. We all do this. Where you are in this process, where you are in that process, where you are, and attach it to an age that you should have been there. But everybody's life experience puts them in a different place at a different time. You literally came out of a non-dating experience that was very insular and very different than anybody else's experiences, into a marriage that was very one thing, and then and coming out on the other side of that, looking at this fresh new world of like dating with a mindset or an eyes view of it from somebody who's in their 20s, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just where you are in the process.
I think also maybe letting go of this idea that we have all of this control.
Yeah.
And I know that the three of us, in our own ways, in very different ways, I don't want to say we're control freaks, but like all three of us, I think, have a little bit of like where we want control. And like, I feel like the more you let go of the idea that we are in control, the better it's going to be, because we're not really in control. And so it's kind of like, do what you can do, focus on the things that are important to you, make sure you're safe and cautious and you're protecting your heart in the ways that you can, but you are not in control of every given situation, and like life is going to happen to you a lot of the times, and like things are going to happen that you can't predict, and try and just roll with the punches and enjoy what you can and like be in the moment. That is so fucking hard for me. And we have a friend who teaches mindfulness, and I'll talk to her about it, and I never realized how much of my life I do not live in the present. Ooh. I have a very hard time not thinking about other things.
Anxiety is living in the future, and depression is living in the past.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. That's very true.
Wow. What a
profound.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time in the future as
Me too.
well.
Yeah. And so it is, I'll have to be very conscious of like being in, it sounds so like woo woo and new agey, but like being in my body, aware of what's happening around me. I have to actually like focus on that.
That's really what I felt last night. I really felt super in the present, in the moment, and
we're able to just enjoy yourself. And that's so fresh and nice.
Yeah.
What a good feeling.
Yeah. Wow. We started with kinks. Got real heavy. Got real heavy real fast.
We got real. Right into the woo-woo. So what are we going to FMK this week?
Do we want to finally do our Dateline Daddies?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Keith Morrison.
Lester Holt. And then what is his...
I'm looking it up.
All of us. Oh, I know this guy too. Josh Mankiewicz.
Oh, that's the guy I was thinking of. Josh Mankiewicz is who I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine to do him too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
Okay.
That's the guy I was thinking of. Josh Mankiewicz.
Do we want to do him?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're doing Lester Holt,
Yep.
Keith Morrison, and Josh Mankiewicz.
Okay.
Dateline hosts. And there've been a million of them. So if you guys have a favorite that we haven't mentioned, maybe we can do a round two down the line. Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
this is tough.
Oh, you know what? It is actually... Oh, God.
I love Josh Mankiewicz's voice. I'm not going to play.
No, they all have great voices, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, Lester Holt's voice is really nice
It's
as
like
well.
butter. Yeah.
It is butter. Here's the problem I'm going to have. Keith Morrison, as much as I love him telling me about true crime, I don't know that I would enjoy his voice in bed.
Absolutely. I don't know if I'd enjoy his voice day in and day out asking me about what
How
I
was your
want
day?
for breakfast. Or
You know why? Actually, I think I would have no problem with his voice, except for that I feel like whenever I was a little kid, my grandparents basically kept Dateline on all the time. And if we traveled and we were in a hotel, it was on. So I feel like Keith Morrison has been reading me murder stories since I was like 5.
and so
for me,
complicated.
Kind of like your grandpa.
it's real complicated. And also if he was like asking me what I wanted for breakfast, I would be a little scared. Like I would be a little scared all the time because I associate his voice with like murder.
Exactly.
But it is also a very soothing voice. So I don't know. This is actually much
You know
harder
what
than
it
I thought
is?
it would be.
It's he's got this cheesy thing, right? Like he kind of has that like boomer thing quality about him. So I would not be able to not think about my grandpa. Like the kind of like so it all kind of is very G-paw for me.
Lester Holt, I think, would be the one who would be most fuckable in this group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and then Josh Mankiewicz, I feel very ambivalent about sexually.
I love his voice.
I feel ambivalent about him in a sexual way. Like, I'm just kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know why I get a very husband energy off of him.
Totally.
He definitely owns a grill. And
Oh,
for
yes.
sure.
He has a Kiss the Cook apron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably Italian, so it's like "Kiss Me, I'm Italian" or something on it.
Well, Mankiewicz.
Oh, maybe not.
That might be Polish, maybe?
I don't know.
Oh, lots of sausage in that relationship.
Oh yeah, there is. Heyo.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I think for me, I love Keith Morrison. I think the only way I could fuck Keith Morrison is if it is Bill Hader doing an impression of Keith Morrison.
Oh, hey.
That's hot.
That's hot.
I like that.
Yeah. If
Keith
he woke
Morrison
you up in the morning and asked you what you wanted for breakfast in Keith
Yes.
Morrison's voice, that's
a
great.
nice
love that.
white wig.
Yes,
He comes to bed
but
in a nice
Keith
white
Morrison doing Keith Morrison,
Nope.
not hot.
Nope, not at all.
I don't.
But
Yeah.
I don't feel like I could kill Keith Morrison.
No, that's
It's a very
Christina's
grandpa.
rules. She refuses to let us friend.
He's such a great. I can't like fuck, marry, grandparent. No.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna fuck Lester Holt. I'm gonna marry
Mankiewicz.
Josh Mankiewicz. I like the name Josh too a lot.
Yeah.
So I think
Joshua.
that's doable. Joshua. And then I'm gonna have to kill Keith.
I am the same as you.
You know, I think
Yeah.
I am also, and
Yeah.
I did not expect.
I didn't either.
this, 'cause
I didn't either. I thought we were
there's-
all
I
marry Keith
love
Morrison.
I
There's
do love him.
A glint in Lester Holt's eye that makes me think he's
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 got
a
a
dirty
basement.
Dateline daddy.
Yeah. He's got a basement with a swing in it. I can see that.
He's
Yeah.
fun in bed.
Yeah.
I bet you. Yeah.
He's got
I
a
bet you.
good
big dick energy, too.
sexual energy about him.
He does. Never thought of it like that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Of all the Dateline daddies, his energy is the most sexual.
Yeah.
He wears the tightest pants.
For sure.
Josh for sure wears white socks with his New Balance shoes.
Yes.
Oh.
But he will grill you
yeah.
a real goddamn good burger.
When he goes down to the end of the driveway to get the mail,
thought
he's
you were gonna say
wearing
go down
socks
on.
and sandals. Oh, no. Maybe also wearing socks and sandals for that too.
Oh my
Ooh,
god.
I just shuddered.
But you know what? He's going to buy you a real nice house with a real nice yard.
Yeah.
Maybe a tire swing.
He's got a dog
Yeah.
for you already.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
definitely.
He's got a-
Labradoodle.
He's got a dog with a real dog name, like Fido
Or
or
Buddy.
Rover or Buddy. Yeah,
Rover.
for sure.
Oh my god. Well, brilliant. Oh, this is my worst date.
Oh, yeah. I'm Cassie.
I'm Keegan,
I'm Christina.
and we actually have a new patron.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, also speaking of new patrons, it's not Nas. She did reach out.
oh, she
Yes.
did. Oh my god!
It's-
And we've done it twice on this show, and
Yes,
we've said it
because
wrong
she-
both times.
Exactly. We did have that conversation. She was a patron before and came back stronger and better.
Welcome
Came around-
back.
Yeah, welcome back. And it's Nays, which I did
Nays.
not think. We fucked up on every angle.
There's no e at the end of it. It's very confusing.
Spell it how you.
Yes, exactly. But we are so happy to have you back. And we are also really happy to welcome Yulin Liu to our Patreon family.
Yay.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess if you guys are cool, let's take 5 and we'll come back with stories.
Yeah.
Wait, are you gaming? On a Chromebook?
Yep. It's got a high-res 120Hz display, plus this killer RGB keyboard. And I can access thousands of games anytime, anywhere.
Stop playing.
What?
Get out of here.
Huh?
Yeah, I want you to stop playing and get out of here so I can game on that Chromebook.
Got it.
Discover the ultimate cloud gaming machine, a new kind of Chromebook.
And we're back.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Oh my God,
What is
that
that from?
Blast from the past. You don't remember
like
that?
Saturday cartoons?
Yeah, Saturday
morning.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go first since I have the crazy in love. This one is titled "My Worst Date That I Didn't Think Was a Date?" ?
Oh.
Hey, ladies, absolutely love the podcast and got one of my best friends hooked on you guys. And she says, shout out Haley. So
Hey, Haley.
Hey. Anyway, I've been holding on to this high school story for a while and have finally stopped procrastinating and decided to send it in.
Thank you.
So we know how much we love the high school stories.
We
Yes,
do.
I love it.
Back in high school, I was extremely addicted to Twitter, especially tweeting about sports like baseball and football. Through my thousands of tweets, I interacted with a lot of other sports fans that I didn't know and ended up befriending some fellow fans on Twitter. There was one guy I ended up talking to a lot and became really good friends with. Although he lived states away from me and the sports teams we rooted for were different. Let's call him Luke. We were the same age. He had similar senses of humor, similar opinions on our sports, and he looked kind of cute in his profile picture. The exact details of how he ended up in my DMs are blurry since it's so long ago, but at some point we had moved our conversations from tweets to direct messages. It quickly became clear that he was into me, and he would say a lot of flirty things like, quote, "All I want is a cute girl like you to watch sports with. Why are you so far away?" And things of that nature. I wasn't particularly into him, but what teenage girl doesn't love the attention? And plus he lived so far away that that what harm could there be in entertaining these conversations?
I have been there.
Yeah, we all have.
The advent
Yeah.
of the internet. Oh my God. I was
Yeah.
on AIM talking to
Yes.
people from all over who I
appreciate.
would never in real life have
Totally.
yeah, you know.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
the attention, it feels good, especially when you're a teenager.
Of course, and especially when you have something in common like that, where you can kind of like razz each other, especially since you're not specifically into the same,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I'm never going to meet this person. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Exactly. So our friendship went on for a couple of months like this before he let me know that he would be in the area soon to visit his grandparents, and his grandfather would be taking him to a baseball game. I was interested in getting to meet him in person, and 3 of my friends agreed to get tickets to go attend the game with me so that we could finally meet. The day of, Luke and I exchanged seating information so we could find each other. I was sitting in my seats with my friends before the game, probably eating snacks and taking selfies. All of a sudden, I hear someone say my name behind me. I turn around and there's Luke, who had just snuck up and sat in the seats behind me in a really awkward and creepy manner. I shook off the awkward start and got up to give him a hug and introduce myself. The first thing I noticed about him was that he was very short. Now,
This is making me think of that video.
I know. Oh my God. And your body, your shoulders like to your ears right now. You're so uncomfortable.
God. It's making me think of that face.
My mom says I can still grow.
oh my God, it's so bad. Now, I'm not one to judge someone's height, typically considering I'm hardly over 5 feet myself, but if I was wearing heels, I would have been taller than Luke. This is high school. I mean,
Yeah,
he can still grow.
Honestly, he probably isn't done growing.
Yeah.
But especially if they're like freshmen, he's basically still a middle schooler. Does everyone remember middle school whenever middle school dances where all the girls were taller?
Yes.
I mean, of course.
Yes.
Christina's like, I'm having flashbacks
Yeah.
right now.
I currently,
Yeah.
That is well short enough to be a turnoff for me. We made some awkward small talk and he took his seat again in the empty row behind us. I don't remember many specifics. All I know is the conversation was very awkward. He was very quiet and he lingered in the seat behind us for a couple innings, not saying much before saying he was going to go watch the game with his grandfather. My friends and I had a good time watching the baseball game on our own, and I'm sure we made some comments about how awkward my encounter with Luke was. Once the game was over, Luke came down to our seats again to say his goodbyes. Totally normal, but this is where things get interesting.
Oh no,
I said
honey. me.
goodbyes to Luke and went in for a hug. As I was pulling away from the hug, his hands grabbed my waist and he starts to leaning in for a kiss.
Oh.
I panicked, and considering his face was right there at the same level as mine, I didn't have much time to react. So I quickly did a spin move, turning around and dropping to the ground, pretending to pick up my jacket and trash.
Oh.
I literally swerved away from this guy's
Oh.
kiss. My friends stood there with their jaws on the floor besides my friend Haley, who was all the way at the end, who didn't see what happened and kept saying, "What? What happened?" Making things all the more awkward.
Oh no.
I finally get back up to face Luke again after completely rejecting him, to see him walking back to his grandfather, who was standing there the whole time and witnessed the whole
my God.
thing.
This entire thing. Because also, and look, like high school girls, it's not that they were trying to be mean, but I feel like high school people, but high school girls specifically, are just oblivious. So they're doing that thing where they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. They're making it really obvious that something was really awkward. And so this poor guy
It's like,
is stuck in this sea of like high school girls after having just been rejected, and they're all fucking like pointing it out.
Yes.
Oh, I hate it. Oh, and in front of your grandpa. Oh
God.
levels of terrible.
I was completely mortified and felt horrible, but I did not think I in any way gave him signals to think that this was a date or that he should go in for the kiss. You would think the story ends here, but I couldn't even get to the car ride home without more awkwardness following me. After the game, Luke had DM'd each of my 3 friends on Twitter separately, asking them what he did wrong and what he should do, and basically just looking for their support and getting him over this utter rejection. At this point, he had crossed the line from being awkward and cringy to straight up clingy and creepy. I think my friends all gave him the same variation of just give her some space, and I ended up sending him some corny apology and planned on not speaking to him anymore. He was much harder to escape than that, though. He, as he went to be on to befriend kids I went to high school with, using the same mutual interests of sports. He even joined a fantasy football league with them and started a podcast with some of them.
Oh my God. Oh, I can't help it. My heart hurts for Luke, I have to say, because I mean, we talk about girls all the time having done like, I mean, because we all have that perspective of like, we all did shit that we look back on and we're like, oh, we got too attached and we were weird. And like, that's all this is like he
misread the situation.
He got too attached.
He didn't read the room. Over this time, he would still periodically DM me about things, about missing me or how I looked good in a picture. I posted a picture I posted or something of that sort. I would keep my answers short or leave him unread. After I posted a picture with a boy I went to prom with, Luke sent me a message saying he hopes he treats me right and cares about me like I deserve. And I never got a DM from him again. Finally, the other kids I went to high school with realized he was a weirdo and stopped interacting with him as well.
Oh, Luke.
My friends still to this day roast me over the awkwardness of that baseball game, so I'm hoping to finally put it into good use and give some of my favorite podcasters a laugh.
Yes.
Love you, ladies. Thanks for reading.
Oh my God.
You were literally hiding in your hoodie.
Buried in my jacket
I
right
know.
now because
I've been a Luke.
I mean,
we've all
I think
been a
I
Luke.
have too. I absolutely have too. Where it's just like it's high school. It's unrequited love,
Exactly.
right? And it's like
V serious.
it's V serious, and it's so sad. I'm like,
oh my God.
oh, it's so awkward. But you know what? I've also been in her position too, though.
Yes.
Like when you have somebody like that you just aren't into, and like you feel bad for them, but it's also like I'm not into you.
Yeah, and especially like high school age or like younger, there's you're like me where I'm like very non-confrontational, and you're like, this will be easier if I'm just like one word
slowly
answers.
back away until they go away, and sometimes they
do not
go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes.
Anthony's still here.
Oh God, Jesus, right? Like
It's so much easier just to be direct.
Now you're married, and
you're just like, eventually he'll get the hint, and we're kidding. Okay, so this subject line is 1 hour too long. Hi, guys. Love your podcast. You guys make me laugh constantly, even when I'm in public and people look at me weirdly.
Love it.
Amazing.
So I was talking to my sister about the crazy stories on your podcast and how it's crazy these things happen. And then she had a date the next day, and I was mortified at what happened, so I wanted her to write to you. Here it is. Sorry if it's a little long. I was swiping on Hinge and came across this super good-looking guy. He was tall, 6'4", dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and built. Wow. We matched, we exchanged conversation back and forth, and then we decided to FaceTime each other. I FaceTimed him 2 times, and both were super good, and he seemed super nice. The day, you're shaking your head. Yeah, I know. Red flag.
I'm all good start, but
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I'm
It's
just like-
always feels like a good start, but if you're writing to us, it means it took
it's
a turn.
exactly right.
The day we chose to hang out comes, and before he gets to my house, I clean up a bit because my house had some dishes to do and clothes to pick up. Same. That's my constant life. My house is not dirty at all. I routinely clean. And before he came over, I texted him, by the way, don't mind the messy room. It wasn't messy. Also, he kept texting me about how hungry he was. So I decided, why not? I'll just go and get some pizzas for us. Very considerate.
Yeah.
V considerate. He gets to the house and I go to let him in. As he steps inside, his first comment is, oh, your house is cluttered. Excuse me? As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh dear Jesus, this is not going to go well.
No.
We proceed to go, even if that was the case, you don't say that.
No.
Like, you don't say that to somebody. That's really fucked up. We proceed to go to the kitchen where the food is, and he looks over to the alcohol area and he says, oh, wow, you're an alcoholic.
What the fuck? Get the fuck out of my house,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah.
Yeah, you've negged me twice, and you've been in my house for 2 minutes.
I've had something like that happen. I'm rebuilding. This is a rebuilding season.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm living the Pier 1 Imports life or whatever with my decor, so to speak. And I've had people be like, oh, it looks like, someone said, oh, it looks like college.
Oh, I'm so deeply offended for you.
Yikes.
I'd be like, get the fuck out
I
of my
hate
house
that.
right now.
You know what? You don't have to be here.
Yeah, you don't have to be here.
Yeah.
You can
And,
leave.
just-
also, your house does not look like college.
No.
No,
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Wow. And also, the alcoholic comment. It's like, pardon me for keeping a well-stocked bar. By the way, alcoholics don't have like full liquor bottles
That's
in
right.
their house.
Yeah.
They don't.
Just
because
FYI.
they would have drank it all.
Yeah.
If you looked under my kitchen sink and found a bottle, then
Yeah.
say something.
If you find one hidden behind the towels
Yeah,
in my closet, then maybe.
Exactly.
I laugh, then realize he didn't say it as a joke.
Oh no.
He sits down on my couch, starts to eat. I wanted to make conversation because he wasn't saying anything. I say, what do you want to do? He looks over and says, I'm eating, in a bitchy tone. I'm sorry, I just gave you fucking pizza. This person would be kicked out of my house.
Yeah, you can get the fuck out.
I was mortified by the comment, so I stopped talking. He finishes eating, and I ask if he wants to go watch a movie, and he says, no, I'm not watching a movie. Let's go get some ice cream or something. So we go to an ice cream place 5 minutes down the street from my house. Since he drove 1.5 hours to get to my area, I decide to drive to ice cream. As we go to get into the car, I walk in front of him and he says, where are you going? A funeral? I was in all black, as I usually do. I laugh it off and continue. He pays, probably the only positive of this date. In the car, I put on my playlist and a Blink-182 song comes on and he goes, what are we, in the 90s?
Jesus, dude.
How many insults? How many?
Good Lord.
Has this worked for him in the past?
There's really nothing worse than being like excited for a date. Like,
Yeah. And it's Neg City.
and it's in your home. It's in your home.
and in your car, and things that are like fundamentally part of you, like
Yes.
your playlists.
Yeah.
Right? He's insulting your music, your home, your like
Your
how you dress.
lifestyle, how you dress.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything like about who you are. He then
God.
proceeds to change the music and presets on her radio.
Get the fuck.
Don't fucking touch
out.
my presets. They're where I want them to be.
Wow.
The fuck is wrong?
You don't need to preset anything in this car that you will never be in again.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
You know what? Why don't you hop out? I'll find parking and never see you again. Bye.
Right. Yeah. I'll drop you off. You go ahead and order some ice cream. I'm just going to do a lap. Go find. Yeah, exactly.
Doors locked.
Prepare yourselves.
God.
Well,
Can't get
well,
worse.
in the car, he says, you know, I'm 32 and I can help you. I'll give you life advice that will help you since no guys stay in your life.
Wow.
I
Wow.
am gonna
brushed it
flip
off.
this table.
Like, I knew. I told you guys before we started, I was like, my story has real flip this table energy.
Does realize that he is single as well.
Right.
So
Why don't any girls stay in your life, sir?
exactly.
Maybe
sir.
because you cannot stop fucking insulting them for one fucking second.
Wow.
It's not hot. It's not hot. Again, anybody who remembers the pickup artist, I feel like we need to put that guy Mystery on trial because I think that this is what happened. People watched that show and they were like, oh, that's how I get women, just by treating them like fucking garbage. Okay. So she says, I brushed it off like every other thing he insulted me on. As we were driving home, I glanced over at him while he was speaking, as one does when you engage while driving, and he says, you know, you really should stop doing that. You'll freak someone out like that. Again, ignore yet another rude-ass comment. I live in a suburban town, and there are a lot of people near my house that own horses. We pass one of them on the way back from ice cream, and he starts to say something. Oh, so you live in a nice town. Mommy and Daddy must have given you everything, just like this nice new Jeep.
Jesus
God.
Christ.
Fuck.
No, I'm a mechanical engineer and make my own money, but I
Yes,
don't
bitch.
say anything, and I just sigh and grip my steering wheel with anger. We get to my house finally, longest 5-minute drive. He goes to drop me off, but then proceeds to park. I say, why are you parking? He goes, so we can go inside and watch a movie. Astonished at the fact that he thought this was going well, I say, no movie. I'm going inside alone, and I think this is it. Bye.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Good.
The next day, I get a text message saying, I had a great time yesterday. When are you free to hang out next?
Oh my God.
How does someone have no shame? Sorry if this was everywhere. Feel free to edit if you like.
No.
Oh my God.
Dude,
Jesus.
the audacity. And also just the utter cluelessness.
The utter cluelessness. And I wonder if, sometimes I do wonder this, like people who are really good looking, like she said he was very good looking and tall and all of that stuff. I wonder if people who are very good looking in the past have treated people like shit and
It worked.
And so they have no, like, they're just oblivious to the fact that like most normal human beings don't fucking like this. Like,
Like
it's
their
not.
compass is off.
Yeah.
If
Completely.
he's that oblivious in a conversation, he's going to be that oblivious with your body. So,
Amen.
that is
Amen.
a fucking fact. People that can't read a room can't read your clit. So,
Amen.
get out.
Get out.
of
Run.
here. Run.
Oh my God. No, yeah. I mean, honestly, if we had taken a shot every time he insulted her, we'd be on the fucking floor right now.
Yeah, I'd
No
be dead.
shit.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross. Okay. So mine I found from Reddit and I titled it Bob's Burgers.
Great.
Amazing.
I like that you titled it.
I gave it a title. And here we go. So it wasn't a date per se. It was more of a hookup type scenario, but it was nonetheless unforgettable. So I'm working at a bar somewhere in Australia. This bar does small 30-ish person parties, one of which was a girl's 21st birthday. I was around 22 or 23 at the time. I'm pretty much the only person working the bar, but there are waitresses on hand to walk around with appetizers, but sometimes I get moments where everyone has a drink and the bar is pretty quiet. I get talking to a really attractive girl who is at the party, but one of the only sober people there, as she has the car and lives like 45 minutes away. We hit it off immediately. She's super flirty, giving me the look as if she wants to strip me naked there and then.
Damn.
And the chat gets somewhat sexual. She asks when I get off work and says I should come back and stay overnight at her house, saying she'd be eager for a spoon, and she waits an hour in her car for me to finish cleaning up and shut the place down.
That's too fast food.
That's a red
It's
flag.
Too fast. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So while we were talking, she mentioned she loves the show Bob's Burgers and kept referencing it, saying I should come stay at her place tonight and wink. I can't wink. For those viewers that try to say wink.
With both eyes.
With both eyes. Watch Bob's Burgers. Wink. She literally winked, insinuating that this was innuendo for Netflix and chills type situation. You know,
I
if
hope
someone
she said wink, by the way.
no,
Wink.
So anyway, here's me thinking this is leading to the obvious outcome. We drive 45 minutes to her place, chatting and flirting the whole way. She's even touching my leg while she's driving, running her hand up and down my thigh. We pull up into this massive house in the middle of nowhere, go through the main house to a sort of
All right, hold on. This man is being led with his dick something fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because, look,
Literally.
the behavior already, yes, literally.
Yeah.
Because the behavior already is like, would be weird. And if it was, and also switch the genders.
Switch to the genders.
If a man waited for you for an hour
In
for
the
your
parking lot,
shift
it's
to
like,
end in the parking lot,
You want to watch Bob's
Burgers, wink with both eyes, and then drive 45 fucking minutes to
Nah.
my secluded house? Absolutely fucking not.
No.
This will get, if you think of it in reverse gender too, this will get even
God.
weirder.
Yikes.
Yikes. So her wing of the house is decorated really quirky, all sorts of things ranging from different sized dream catchers to tiki masks, bohemian rugs.
Well, her wing of the house?
Yes.
Wing.
Anyway.
Wing.
A
Exactly.
whole wing.
I noticed some MMA gloves on the floor and ask about it. She tells me she competes in amateur kickboxing. I think that's pretty cool. I'm a big fight fan. She puts on
I'm so nervous.
She puts on the
incredibly
gloves
nervous.
My stomach actually hurts a little bit from being nervous.
and throws another pair at me. Tells me, put them on.
Oh.
Oh no.
I'm thinking this is just another flirty little thing. And we stand up, square off. She's throwing light jabs and feints, and so am I. Now, I have relatively no martial arts training besides basic boxing techniques. What I didn't expect to happen next was that she roundhouse kicked me square in the face.
She's like, let me show you my skills.
Like, okay, Ronda Rousey, settle the fuck down.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, I'm thinking, that's a bit strange. I'm gonna try to brush it off as enthusiasm.
Bit strange. Like, this is a man who wants to get laid
So bad.
badly that he's like, all of this, he's just brushing off these red flags. Like, she's just dumped an entire box of red flags on top of his head.
She
and he's
kicked
like,
you in the face with a red flag. Oh my God.
Were her socks red?
Oh, we continue lightly jabbing when I see another kick coming, this time aimed at my ribs. I manage, quite gracefully, if I might say so, to catch her right leg in my left arm and twist while hooking my right leg behind her other leg for a takedown. It wasn't forceful or anything, but it ended up with me lying on top of her, really close to her face, pretty much in missionary position. We're both smiling and looking into each other's eyes. So I do what the protagonist does in all the movies after pulling off something smooth. I go in for the kiss. Oh, no. She pulls away from me and acts surprised and said, I'm not looking to do anything.
you just drove me 45 minutes to get here.
Wait.
What? I ask her what she means, and she said, look, I just wanted to sit and watch Bob's Burgers. I told you.
Oh, you winked. You winked.
Again, I'm visibly confused. She basically says she doesn't want to hook up or do anything. So at this point, I'm a bit pissed off at being misled so much. And after a few awkward minutes of near silence, she offers to take me back home, which I accept as I am no way going to go sleep comfortably in this situation than face her in the morning. What commenced thereafter was the most awkward, silent 45-minute car journey from the ass end of nowhere to the city where my hostel was. When we pulled up, she started trying to guilt me, telling me I was the asshole for assuming that sex was on the cards. She then asked me to empty my pockets to prove I hadn't stolen anything from her.
Are you kidding me?
And with that, we left it on a very insincere handshake.
A handshake.
Now, we just talked about reading the room.
Yeah.
Now, I feel with what he describes is if this chick was flirting with him at the bar all night and then like come over to my place, you know, I want a spoon.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I want to watch Bob's Burgers.
But you can't be. I'm very torn because there's
torn
the other
too.
part of me that's like, well, okay, but to get pissed off that it doesn't.
You
turn
can't
into
be
a
pissed
thing?
off that it doesn't turn into sex. However, if you were having sexual conversations,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that's the part of it that gets me. 'Cause
Yeah.
the rest of it is strange to
Yeah.
invite a stranger
to your house
to your house
and
to
then
watch
accuse him
TV.
of stealing shit.
Like,
Fight with him.
because I mean,
Drive
I don't
45 minutes for it too.
I don't need more friends to watch TV with. So to
Right.
me, I mean, I'm totally with you. I'm like, you can't really be mad that you expected sex and didn't get it. Like,
Right.
boo-hoo, like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever about that. But
The rest
it
of it's
is also very strange to invite someone you don't know that you just met over to your house to watch TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's weird,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
Bob's Burgers is a good show, I guess, but I wouldn't drive 45 minutes
I
to
wouldn't
watch
drive
it.
45 minutes to watch it.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
drive 45 minutes to watch anything, to be honest with you.
But also, she did give him a fucking pile of red flags that he ignored.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So there you go.
oh,
I'm ready for some crazy
me too.
love.
What's up?
are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So my notes are a little all over the place. So I'm going to try to get through this as smoothly as possible and as quickly as possible because there's a lot to share.
Can I just say that I always get excited right before, like I'm like, ooh, which
What's it gonna
story
be?
is
What's it
it?
gonna be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Story time.
Well, I'll give you a hint. It is a history lesson,
Yes.
which I love because I'm that nerd.
No, I love
We're
it.
all that
I know we're all
nerds.
like, yes.
And it was literally an entire day of just fucking researching because I will say that there is a very what I have found is that there are two very strong opinions on how and I don't want to say what happened, but how this interaction
Went down?
how the story unfolds. Okay. So this is the story of F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald.
Excellent.
Yay.
So most of my information came from Wikipedia of F. Scott and as well of Zelda, mostly pulled from the Nancy Milford biography that she did on Zelda. So there's a lot of information from there. There is a very two-sided telling of this story. There's the very basic F. Scott Fitzgerald, this is what happened. And then there's the Zelda side that a lot of people dispute.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I picked sides, Zelda, but I do think that it is a lesson in history in the way that we perceive relationships, in the way that we perceive from the outside, the way that people's interactions are with each other. There's a lot to learn from this story.
Yeah, I'll say going in, and maybe my mind will be changed by the end of the story. And so I'll say going in, and then I'll say what I think at the end. But from what I know of this story, I do think I'm team Zelda. I think.
I'm pretty sure she was the genius writer.
She was.
Agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I will say that most of me plays Team Zelda. What I will say, though, is from the research that I've done on both sides, I agree that there are two sides to every story.
I think they
believe
were like
that
the OG Sid and Nancy.
I agree.
For sure. Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I think that it's tortured artists through and through. It's a very interesting story. Cool. A lot of my information, like I said, was from Wikipedia. I also read a little bit on a article called Hidden Artwork of Zelda by Rachel Kester, and another article called Behind the Myths of Scott and Zelda's Epic Romance. I cannot words today. By their actual granddaughter, Eleanor Lanahan. So let's tell you a little bit about F. Scott Fitzgerald. He was named Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. He was named after one of his relatives. You may have heard of Francis Scott Key, who wrote
Star Spangled Banner.
Wow. Yikes. I am not words and good today, guys. He was born on the 24th of September in 1896 in St. Paul, Minnesota. He was born to Edward and Molly, both of Irish Catholic descent. His mother was an actual Irish immigrant. Molly's family had made success for themselves through grocery chains and became the primary source of income, while Edward was failed as a salesman. So that's just kind of what he grew up in. His mom came from money. His father had, tried to be the breadwinner and really kind of failed as fairly epically in his pursuits. Molly relied a lot on their family money to send Scott to the best schools. Scott was one of, I think, only 3 children that actually survived. So he was quite taken care of as far as they were concerned. But Scott still felt his lack of wealth strongly amongst his fellow classmates, because where he was going to school, he's surrounded by these people who are uber wealthy, and he's barely making enough money just to go to these schools, and just get by. So to, really fit in felt a little difficult for him, but he found the best way to fit in was through his writing. He found that he couldn't necessarily control his wealth or his lack thereof, but he was able to, through his words, he could help control his situation in stories. Like, he was able to inspire, reactions out of people. He was able to write stories in plays. And so when he was starting to write plays, he could literally write the narrative in which his world evolved around him. And because he's writing plays, these people wanted to be involved, and he's literally able to write what these people are saying, so it gives him a little bit of sense of power in a very powerless point of his life. He's surrounding himself by the people of his choice, and he's able to do that with writing. Scott, upon graduation, was accepted to Princeton, in which he had written a kind of a future script for himself in his mind, like of how this would play out. He's like, I'm going to go to Princeton. In his mind, he's already scripted his life.
Of course. Talk about living in the future. Again, it's something that I do. Yeah.
If has anxiety.
If I'm going into a situation, I'm like, this is how it's going to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean?
He's already like, I'm going to play football. I am going to go into this place. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be a superstar.
Yeah. And as somebody who moved a lot growing up, and part of the allure of moving so much was being able to be like,
write a new narrative.
I can completely become a different person if I want to.
Right.
Like, none of these people know me. So I can decide who do I want to be, like, going into this situation, and like manifest that for myself. It doesn't usually work out like that.
No.
But that's the idea. There's an appeal to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a really hard line to walk between setting goals for yourself, which is great, and you should absolutely have dreams and work to pursue them, but there's that line between like dreams and obsessions or things that you have to get that goal, or like if something goes wrong, it just completely destroys you.
Or even just trying to be a different person.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I would do a lot when I moved. I would be like, okay, I was this person here. I want to be this person. So I would go in and be like, what does this person act like? That's the actor in me. Like, what does this person act like? Like, let's try and act like that.
It's kind of like Never Been Kissed.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I came out of high school as this total nerdy person, and I'm going to turn it around. This is my chance to be the cool kid. And and everybody's like, no,
you are who you are, and it doesn't.
It's exactly
it doesn't work out. Ever.
So he is like, I am going to try out for football. I am going to gain fame through sports, and he was cut immediately from football team after the first practice. He is, he's a meager man. He's only about 5'8", 138 pounds. He wasn't quite cut for the high impact sports. So he joined the Triangle Club, which, does writing, acting, plays, things like that. So he's, again, finding his niche, finding his way in, finding his way to communicate with people and to, build his community around him through writing, which is, also kind of starts to become his dream. He wants to, and this comes up quite a bit, like his dream is to write the great American novel and be this amazing novelist. So, Soon, as most college stories go, he had found drinking and partying were more enticing. Sounds college AF.
Some things never change.
Yeah. On one evening of partying, he had gone back to St. Paul and he met Ginevra King at a dance hall, and he was smitten immediately. They had a relationship for nearly 2 years, which allegedly was told by her father, poor boys do not marry rich girls. And this was kind of like his first introduction of being like, hey, remember you're poor? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because you hang out with a bunch of rich people, you poor. And be reminded of your place. And so this kind of sat with him, like, I don't ever want to be. And, having this idea of his father, kind of a failed businessman, and he never was going to live this life of being poor. And so his constant life was a struggle of, fame, money, and riches, and sometimes, and a lot of the time, lack thereof. So this is purportedly the Daisy of the story, this Ginevra. So many people say that this is where Daisy comes from in the story of The Great Gatsby. Mm-hmm. So
Ginevra. Wow.
Ginevra, what a name, right?
What a name.
Ginevra King. And she does go on to marry one of her dad's like business associates who's like a wealthy millionaire. So I mean,
gross.
It's all, you see it. If you know anything about Great Gatsby, you see a lot of these telltale things, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, with, declining grades and an academic probation, Scott drops out of Princeton to join the military in 1917. At this time, World War I is raging.
Yikes.
And in June of 1918, he is sent to Camp Sheridan in Montgomery, Alabama. So he is waiting for his, call to go over and serve in the military. He's, doing his time, and he's just waiting for that. Like, hey, we're sending you over to, with the troops.
Front lines,
exactly. So Montgomery, Alabama. Enter Zelda Sayre. Zelda was born June 24th, 1900, the youngest of 6 children to a prominent Montgomery family. Her father was a justice on the Alabama Supreme Court. So they came from a very high-end, wealthy stock and background in Alabama. Zelda had gained a reputation as a bit of a wild child and was the it girl of her time in her area. There are stories about you've seen pictures of her. She is absolutely
gorgeous,
one of the most beautiful women. I mean, honestly, just absolutely stunning.
Well, you named her Zelda too. That's a party name if I've ever heard it.
Right. Many of her suitors pined for her, and there were stories of the local airmen buzzing her house just to gain her attention. There was even a story about a guy who was buzzing her house and actually crashed his plane. So I mean, there's wild stories. I mean, people were on her and wanted her attention.
Can you imagine being that hot? Like somebody crashed their plane?
No, I cannot.
I literally cannot.
Well, this is so relatable, you guys.
Happens to me every day.
I get it. Just wild, like wrecking their cars. Again, men would line up to cut into dances with her. When she would go to dances, there was even stories like people were like, women of Birmingham would come to a dance, and if Zelda walked in, they would all turn around and go home because it's just nobody had a chance.
I mean, like that shit's gonna give you a fucking complex. Like no one needs that much attention. I feel like anybody who gets that much, something's gonna go wrong. You can't have that much attention in your life.
Well, and she was, for all intents and purposes, I don't think somebody who let that quite. I think it went to her head a little bit.
I think it's
but
impossible
I also think
for it not to go to your head. How could it not?
Yeah, I can.
How could it
She's
not?
the baby of the family.
Oh,
yeah. There's
Spoiled.
no way. Everyone's treating you like a special princess, like all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no way.
She was also a bit of a tomboy and always hung out with the boys.
Oh, so she was a cool girl too?
Oh, yeah,
Great.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
She's not like the other girls, you guys.
She's super cool. So on one evening, a night out in the town, she had caught the eye of Second Lieutenant F. Scott Fitzgerald. He had walked into a dance, saw her dancing, and was just
smitten kitten.
He would spend every break coming into the city to court her. Before he could be deployed, the war had ended, and Scott proposed to Zelda. He was in love with her. She said,
he's like, hey, let me ruin your life.
Hey, it seems like you got it pretty good here. Do you mind if I just step in and fuck shit up for you?
And there it began. She, though, as well, was pretty smitten with him. So she said yes, but Scott needed to build a career. She was like, I'm not going to marry. She's also like, hey, I got it good too. So you're not going to step in and just ruin my life.
Need you.
I don't need you. I don't know if you notice all these suitors I have. Some of them got real money.
I got options.
Yeah.
Hashtag replaceable.
100. And he did not want to be replaceable. He already experienced that with Ginevra. He was like, I'm going to prove myself worthy. And because she had other suitors, I think for him, he was like, challenge accepted. He's like, here I go. So,
you know what? Everything about this story is a recipe for disaster. Like, you can see it already because you've got like this person who has like an inadequacy complex.
Yes.
And he went after like the most difficult prize, essentially.
Right.
Like,
like he did with Ginevra as well.
Where it's just like, God, you're just, why?
Yeah. He wants the unattainable.
Yeah.
He wants what, has never really been attainable for him.
And he wants status, clearly. He very clearly wants status.
Writing.
Yes, yeah.
You see it in his writing. I mean, honestly.
That's sad.
It is. It's wild. And so he heads to New York to gain employment. He starts working for like a marketing firm and writing short stories and writing things. But he's really unable to satisfactorily
Yes.
Wow, I don't know why that doesn't sound right. Convince Zelda that that he was like able to financially support her. So she broke off their engagement. She's like, honey.
Honey.
It's cute. Oh, you got a job. That's nice.
That's nice. It is nice. When
oh, Zelda, if you only knew.
Things got really real for Christina. She's like, you're about to tell a joke, and then you're like, actually, that is nice.
Actually, you're like, well, I would go for that.
And you're like, he has a job? Oh, that's great. That's great.
But she's like, good for you. Where's
She's
that
like, have
money?
you seen my daddy's house?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is not going to work. So Scott decided to return home to St. Paul so he could complete his novel because he was like, you're right. This is not cutting it. So he's like, I am going to finish this fucking novel. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be a famous writer. And in the meantime, they've been writing letters back and forth. She shared her diary with him. They've had a lot of talks, and she knows that that's what he wants to be. Mm-hmm. So, she's like, yeah, you do that thing. So he's like, you know what? I am. So he goes back home to St. Paul, Minnesota, stays with his family, pretty much living off of nothing, borrowing money for cigarettes and booze, and just working his way through this book. And he is such a meticulous writer that he writes multiple drafts, multiple drafts. He is somebody who's like, I'm going to get this thing perfect. That's the kind of writing. And you will see it continually through his career. So he finally finishes his book, This Side of Paradise. During this time, like I said, he had letters that confirmed Zelda had become his new muse for Rosalind, telling her the heroine does resemble you in more ways than four. Not only a muse, but he had on many occasions stealing outright direct words and excerpts from her diary. Mm-hmm. So there is like legitimate, like word for word, like diary ripoffs from her in this book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so she should have gotten a co-writing credit, is what you're saying?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But this is something that will come up multiple times in their lives because he is somebody who writes directly from his own experiences. And this book was supposed to be a book about his experiences at Princeton. And so some of it, maybe inspired from the stories of Ginevra, but he really fell in love with Zelda's writing. He fell in love with the way that she articulated things and found a muse in her writing style and really used a lot of it in his work. Mm-hmm. The book was released to a wild success. He sold out his fucking book the day that it was released. That's how
amazing.
Can you fucking even fathom that?
I mean,
these
are
his first real book.
I was going to say, these are the kinds of stories that keep artists on that grind because you're like, that could be me.
Absolutely.
I could go from being poor to being like a wild success.
In one day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Your book is released.
I cannot imagine, no.
It's released on March 26th and he writes his mother. He's like, I want your ring. Sends his ring to Zelda. And on March 30th, She is arriving by train to New York, where they are married on April 3rd.
Isn't it crazy how like old timey marriages worked? They were just like, we're engaged and we're getting married next weekend. Like my engagement's like 2 years. And
Yeah, and you still feel stressed.
yeah, and I'm still stressed out. And they were just like, no, we're doing it immediately.
We got this.
Like my story last week where they like met and got married within like a month.
I know, right? But they've known each other for a long time, so there is that. This has
There
been a
is
couple
that.
years
That's
in the
true.
making.
Yes. Yeah.
Like honestly, like 2 years easily in the making. They met in like 1918. This is about almost 1920 is when they get married. So they get married in the rectory of the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and quickly the couple become the toast of the town. They are as they kind of helped enter this jazz age, they became this kind of iconic vision of what the jazz age was. This book really spoke to a new set of people. It spoke to who this new group of, up and coming adults were.
Yeah.
And this wealth and excess that was happening after post World War I. Zelda became known as the first American flapper. She wrote many articles about being, the first American flapper. And they would
She's like Kylie Jenner.
oh my God, totally. She was the Kylie Jenner of her age, right?
Yeah. Trendsetter.
Absolutely.
But also a writer. So
Yeah.
she
And
did stuff.
An artist. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they would become pregnant, and in 1921 they would have a daughter, Frances Scott Fitzgerald. She went by Scotty.
Oh,
That's
cute.
so
That is so cute.
Oh
I
my
know.
God, that's so cute.
Hella cute.
Zelda was asked to contribute to, as she was becoming this kind of like it girl in the city, and they're living in New York, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're so fabulous! And could you write for our little book? And we want you to enter, send in your favorite recipe." So I have to read you guys the favorite recipe that she wrote in. This is the kind of excess that she was living, the kind of life she was living.
What must it be like for everyone to always think you're fabulous? Like, what must that be like?
It's weird because initially at first you're just kind of like burdened by that, success and that stress.
Are you being sarcastic?
100%.
Okay, I could not tell. I was like,
Yeah. You're like, bitch, you ain't that fabulous. All right. So she writes, she's so witty. And so she writes, so she was asked to send in her favorite recipe. This is what she sends. See if there is any bacon. And if there is, ask the cook which pan to fry it in. Then ask if there are any eggs. And if so, try to persuade the cook to poach 2 of them. It is better not to attempt toast, as it burns very easily. Also, in the case of bacon, do not turn the fire too high, or you will have to get out of the house for a week. Serve preferably on a china plates, though gold or wood will do if handy.
Oh my God.
gold
Brilliant.
or wood.
Yeah. So she's,
She sounds fun.
she's fun. She's witty, and she's like, bitches, I ain't cooking. This is the best I got for you. My
I'm
favorite
sorry.
recipe.
Did you not hear? I'm rich.
Right. She's
I don't
like-
have to do that.
She's like, wealth and excess, me.
Yes.
Equal me. So because her wit and charm, she is prompted by the New York Tribune, this prompts the New York Tribune to ask her to write a review of her husband's latest book, The Beautiful and Damned.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to read you a little snippet of
Don't
that.
ask the wife to write a review.
It seems to me that on one page I recognized a portion of an old diary of mine, which mysteriously disappeared shortly after my marriage, and also scraps of letters, which, though considerably edited, sound to me vaguely familiar. In fact, Mr. Fitzgerald, I believe that's how you spell his name, seems to believe that plagiarism begins at home. Tea.
Killer.
Sips. Tea. So she writes that
Scathing.
kind of satirically, and presumably no one actually thinks that this actually is much of a dig. And for all things that I found, it kind of seems as though, and mostly from the writing from their granddaughter, he seemed to kind of think it was funny as well.
Oh.
Like it was kind of a jab, but also, I'm sipping tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because
course,
that has to come from a place. If you're writing that and you know that the world is going to see it, you're like, ha ha ha, funny, but also, what the fuck?
yeah.
Like,
So, like I said, they'd had their daughter, Scotty. This didn't dampen their party lifestyle, though, and they threw notoriously wild affairs at their Long Island home before escaping to France, where the dollar was strong and prohibition wasn't an issue. While in France, they surrounded themselves in an artistic community, notoriously meeting Hemingway. So this is when, they are like really surrounded by artists and, they meet other notorious artists.
literally everyone's an alcoholic.
Right.
They're called the Lost Generation.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely. Yes, that's what they talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So during this time, they had moved to France because Scott had also wanted to really dive into his next novel, which was going to be The Great Gatsby. And so the thing about him is that he took from all of his books, he took pieces of his life. That's what he was. He was taking excerpts of his life and infusing them into, quote, fictional tales. And that was his style. He's also notoriously known in his writing to being very accessible to women, which also makes you wonder how much he stole from women to create that, or a woman in particular. During this time, as he was busying away writing, he immersed himself into heavy drinking once again and toiling over The Great Gatsby. He is a notorious... I mean, if you ever hear anything about F. Scott Fitzgerald, one of the first things you'll hear about is how wild his drinking was.
But do you ever think, like, as someone who likes to drink and enjoys it, how do you get shit done? Like, really, like, how do you get shit done if you're drunk all the time?
And
There's no way I can write while sussed.
No.
And that's what his granddaughter writes about as well, kind of saying, he is a notorious alcoholic, but he is somebody who is a very high functioning alcoholic.
Clearly, because I mean, I'll have like a glass of wine while I'm editing, like a podcast episode or something. But I wouldn't even do that if I was like
drinking
drunk.
gin all day.
Yeah,
Ugh.
no.
And so gin
gross.
was
You just smell like a Christmas tree. No.
You smell like an alcoholic Christmas tree. Grandpa, you smell like an alcoholic Christmas tree. She, at the time, Zelda, had met and became quite smitten with a French pilot named Edouard Jozan, reportedly asking Scott for a divorce at some point because
She's like, you know what Edouard doesn't do? Steal from me.
Ooh, you know what else he doesn't do? Sit in his room, drink all day, and write books forever.
He takes me in his airplane.
We go swimming. Yeah. She'd asked for a divorce. Scott apparently became furious with this, and it is reported that he locked her captive in their home for over a month, during which Zelda had tried to overdose basically on sleeping pills.
Sounds about 1920s. You could just fucking lock your wife in a room and be like,
Hundo.
this is fine.
Yeah. He's like, until you change your mind, you're staying right here.
Oh,
and there's also too reports of like friends like walking her around the house to keep her awake so she doesn't die. Like, is that the fucking most wild thing ever? Like, no hospital. We're just gonna walk you around the house, keep you awake so you don't die. They say
Sound like good friends.
they never really say whether it was a suicide attempt, quote unquote, and they never speak of it again. So apparently this is something that was like very hush hush in the family.
It could have just been her trying to get out of that fucking situation. She probably didn't want to actually die. She just wanted to get out of the fucking situation.
Yeah.
And how could, there aren't a lot of opportunities to get out of that situation.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, you're really, especially if he locks you up in your home, nobody ever really sees you again. And he, pilot's like, oh, I guess that's a no. And
Yeah.
so,
Bye.
wow.
I got ghosted.
Right? Their tumultuous relationship continued, and after an incident and a party, Zelda threw herself down marble staircase. So Scott's ignoring her. She's kind of acting wild and acting out just to get his attention.
But you know what's infuriating about this story is that it is always framed as like, wasn't Zelda so crazy? And
Yes.
it's like, what would you be like if you were in a situation where you were a hostage in your own fucking life? Like, it wouldn't, like, you'd be acting out too. I don't think that like she's nuts.
And you're talking about like an obviously like really intelligent and
Artistic.
creative person who's voice has been stolen.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything.
And there's a lot of
worse.
speculation on that too, even from the family. The granddaughter talks a bit about that and her mother's perspective, having grown up in it and around it. And she said, really, it wasn't even just this as much as it was a product of the time. Like that's kind of like was your role, is that you were
the wife.
You're the wife. You're here to support. It wasn't a big deal that he stole from you. It was actually kind of par for the course and what your role was as a wife.
But if you're a free spirit,
yes,
like that, it doesn't matter. Like that is what happens at this time.
Sure.
It still feels wrong because we know what's right and we know what's wrong, and it doesn't matter if society tells you like this is okay.
Inherently,
it still
deep
would
down,
feel bad and it would feel wrong. And then on top of that, you've been completely stripped of like your freedom and your autonomy by being like locked in a home. You know,
yeah. During this time, too, Zelda's just basically unable to get her own writing works, much recognition. So she had been writing during this time as well. So she switched her artistic pursuits into ballet. And at 27, amongst much discouragement, and especially discouragement from Scott, she threw herself full force into an exhaustive cycle of dance and practice. So she is getting into ballet. She is like, she's like, I can't get my writing to take off, so I'm going to try this other artistic pursuit that will literally not be able to be stolen from anybody. Will literally not be, it'll be mine. I can use this. This will be my thing. And she's 27 though. You don't start a ballet career at 27 years old. Even if you had ballet lessons when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You're not going to get very far. And in 1930, and maybe because of the relationship, the nature of their relationship, or the tiring dance schedule, Zelda is admitted to a psychiatric hospital from exhaustion, where she is eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now, there have been many...
Yeah, I'm giving you hardcore side eye.
I know. And so here's where a lot of this came from, like her granddaughter. And she said, even from her mother's visitations with her, the things she says, her mother legitimately had mental health issues. Now, everybody wants to post-date and post-prescribe what happened to her, but this diagnosis, it was only a 19-year-old, diagnosis. Schizophrenia had only really been recognized as something.
I mean, but we're also talking about a time period in which you could literally just put your wife, like just for independence, you could put your wife in a mental institution for anything. Yeah. And being in an institution like that, I mean, this is probably like 40 years after Nellie Bly went into the institution. And like we learned about how fucking awful people are treated in those institutions. So who's to say whether or not she was crazy when she went in?
Right.
Or if it was being there that made her that way.
That's exactly,
that's
exactly where my mind went too. There's initially, sure, she may have gone in because of hysteria, or she's wild, or I can't control her, or whatever. But at some point she is, but they were doing,
you've got
they were doing
electroshock therapy,
and she
you've
was
got all
admittedly
kinds of shit.
gone through electroshock therapy. But to that point, Scott did spend almost his entire life just making enough money to keep her in hospitals and keep her being taken care of. So I'm not saying that's good.
Taken care of in quotes. I don't know. This whole thing is suspect to me. I mean, and maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know. We did an episode of Your Angry Neighborhood Feminist about like women, crazy women, and that kind of thing. And just like the number of times, especially during this time period, he's already shown himself to be incredibly controlling. If you're willing to lock your wife in your house for doing stuff that you don't want her to do, then I don't think it's out of the question that you would throw your wife into a mental institution for something like that. And especially since it was fairly common. Yeah. It was fairly common up until like the 50s. So like to me, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, I'm completely with you. And I think that there are both sides. There are people who are like, absolutely not. And then there are people who are like, yeah, no, this is fucking wild. And I agree. I think it's very suspect. And I think that there is a lot to be said. And my first inclination was to be like, well, maybe she just didn't do what she was supposed to, quote unquote, ended up and then became, in some way pushed to a mental state via all the treatments, all the drugs.
A couple too whose entire life like was so full of like alcohol and parties and that combined with everything else, they just it's easy to see like the exhaustion thing and then just like nervous breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've had panic attacks, right? Or like I have anxiety. I've had depression. If you had taken me, I have an independent streak, right? And if you had taken me with those issues and put me in a situation where I'm in inhumane like
Conditions.
an inhumane environment, and then also you're literally fucking with my brain using like electroshock therapy.
Completely powerless.
I think people would probably think that there was really, really something wrong with me by the end of that.
And if you're heavily medicated on some of these drugs, you could be. I mean, there were reports where she was like, "Oh, she says she's talking to God," but I'm like, there's some medications that could make you think you're talking to fucking God.
It's 1920s medication where people were like, literally like,
this shroom will work.
Heroin, the wonder drug.
Yeah, that's fine. Cocaine. Give her some cocaine. It's fine.
Cocaine. It's good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in 1931, though, she was released from the latest place that she was in, institution she was in, which was in Switzerland or outside of Switzerland. And they returned home to Montgomery because her father was very ill, in bad shape. After his death, she was reinstitutionalized once again in Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Scott, at this time, when they had gotten back to the States, his books aren't doing well. Great Gatsby did not go well. It was a total flop, and he was forced to take a job with MGM to keep the money coming in. So he had to move to Los Angeles to start working as a scriptwriter here because his books just weren't selling. His books of excess and, all this stuff were not going over well during the Depression. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, people were like, I'm sorry, I can't afford bread for my family.
Right. I just lined up with a ticket to buy bread.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about you like throwing champagne around, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So during her time at Johns Hopkins, though, over the course of 6 weeks, she became incredibly inspired and wrote an entire novel called Save Me the Waltz. She sends it to his publisher, and the publisher sends it over to Scott and is like, hey, have you read this?
I am going to take a bet to...
Yeah, wait to get angry, girl.
Oh, I'm already angry. I'm like fuming.
Please don't actually flip my table. Okay? After seeing it, of course, he sends it over to Scott, and he sees that she has drawn from their actual life experiences and using similar tones and notes from the very book that Scott had been working on for over the last year and a half, 2 years. So he is furious. He's like, I have let you read this book. You know what I've been working on. And you just in 6 weeks knock out a fucking novel.
Oh, does that not feel good? Does that feel bad?
Is that hard? Is that? Oh, it's because it's our same life experiences?
Honestly, the level of petty like that I truly aspire to. It's wonderful.
Oh, my level of petty that I aspire to in the story is her fucking review of his book. I swear to
I
God.
love it because it was so like offhanded.
Oh, it was a smack in the face. Let's be honest.
I want to revenge write a novel.
He insists that she revise it and take out anything that completely correlates between their stories. And he does help her revise it because he does want her to have a book that she can, have published. That book doesn't do shit, and he does finish his book. And even though the apparent anger continued, he continued to support Zelda and helped her again rewrite the novel. When Zelda then pursued painting, and he was surprisingly very supportive of this, loved her paintings, and even set up a showing for her in New York.
But because it didn't threaten him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it didn't threaten him. Like, I'm not giving you a pat on the back for that. Like,
so the big questions for me that come from this very long, I know it's like probably running a lot on time here, but I want to kind of just wrap it up with this. Did Zelda, lead to his drinking? Did he lead to her breakdown? I don't think either of those things can be proven. I think you have two groups of artists who are very, extremely in their, mindset of, it's
combustible.
Yeah,
you had two people who fed into each other. It's like any other. Yes, it's like it's like a Kurt and Courtney. It's like a Sid and Nancy. It's like two people. Maybe this is what happens when extroverts get together. I don't know.
A lot of people, though, say that she is the original pixie dream girl.
Manic pixie dream girl,
yes, and then make her kind of into that character. But again, if they had never met, had they never had this combustible relationship, would we have ever had The Great Gatsby? Would we have ever had, we probably wouldn't have. We probably would have never had some of this stuff. And does the art that comes out of something so combustible, we forgive it? Do we forgive the thing? Do we forgive Nirvana? Do we forgive the art that we receive because of somebody's really combustible relationships? It's hard.
I don't know. You know, like I love F. Scott Fitzgerald novels. I love them. I loved them in high school. I do enjoy them. But when you're talking about somebody's like actual life, and I guess we don't know what happened here, and you can't ever blame somebody for someone else's life. Like, I'm not going to blame Zelda for F. Scott's drinking or
the other way around,
anything like that. But when you're dealing with people's like actual existence, I would say that I would always sacrifice the art for the human being.
Sure.
You know, because like that's no life.
It's just it's hard. We all know. I mean, I can think of a person that, you know, I care about deeply, that person that brings out the worst of you. And even though you care about them, you love them, or it's something about that fire and everything, but it also like
drives
as much
you.
as it brings creativity, it also brings
Destruction.
crazy
Disaster. Yeah. I mean, I've been with people like that for sure. And, you know, even though it might feed into some greatness, right? I would still sacrifice that relationship. I would sacrifice that little spark for health. For us both to be healthy and happy.
And
you know what I mean?
She probably tried to. I think that time in France where she wanted to, it was maybe her try. But again, it's a different time. I mean, were we looking through this from a lens from a completely different time? And
but that time was wrong. The way, like, honestly, and I know that like that gets said a lot, where it's like, well, it was a different time, and I understand that, but like it was wrong, and nobody should ever have been treated like
know better,
that.
do better. And I think that's where we're at now. Is we know better, we do better. But at that time, it's hard to judge somebody's reasons for staying, reasons for not.
Oh yeah,
reasons
no.
for all that.
I don't judge any of that. I judge him locking her in a fucking room. I judge everyone just kind of brushing off the fact that she tried to overdose. Like I judge all those things because you're not treating this person like a person. You're treating them like a wife.
Yeah. There's many, many layers to this conversation. There's many layers to this actual story. There's things I didn't even get to touch on. There's some Hemingway stuff. There's lots of notes. I highly recommend anybody who has the time to take the deep dive, please do so. I know that there's lots of information out there, but I wanted to touch on it because I think, you know, it is kind of a good crazy and love story.
It's a great one. Yeah, you did a great job.
So that was my snippet. Crazy and love. So what are you guys doing this week? I'll start. Chris and I have been, we never watched the show Castle. And we decided we've been wanting to watch it forever. And we're like, let's watch it. So we finally just bought it on fucking Amazon and we binged and we're almost done with the second season.
Are you loving
love it?
Are you loving it? Good.
It's so cute.
It's so cute. I'm like, how did I miss
love
this?
Nathan Fillion.
Oh, me
My
too.
God. I really do.
Everyone does. He's America's sweetheart.
He's so great.
You know, similarly, I didn't have a ton of time to like watch anything this week, but well, I did on set while I was like sitting around waiting in between being on set. I watched My Cousin Rachel, that movie with Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
It's a Crazy in Love.
Oh,
That's
is
a Crazy in Love movie. But then, similarly to you, they're taking The Office off of Netflix at the end of the year, and I've never watched The Office.
Same.
I'm like one of the only people. You and I are like the only
Wow.
people on earth who've like never watched The Office. So I was like, everybody watches the shit out of this show. I should watch it, and I'm getting into the groove of it. I'm still on the first season. There's only 6 episodes in the first season, but I'm getting into the groove of it. But this might be a hot take, and we'll see if my opinion changes as I watch more. I think I like Parks and Rec better.
Ooh.
I think I like Parks and Rec better than The Office, but maybe it's just because I haven't I'm not in it yet.
Not invested yet.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let me know if that's a hot take, listeners. I bet it is.
I finished Good Omens. I hadn't watched it.
Yeah.
yet.
Which
I've
is
been
weird
saving
because
it.
that's right up your
Oh, I
alley.
know. I love the book and I love David Tennant. I love Michael Sheen. It was
Yes.
such a great portrayal. Like, I
good.
definitely recommend it.
Is that on
It's
HBO?
So good. It's Prime.
Prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely recommend. It's just one season. It's a beautiful story, and it was really, really well done. And it
good.
got me really excited about Sandman on Netflix.
Yes.
Someday.
Yeah, sooner
So-
than later, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's something.
So, our listeners, if you guys want to join our Facebook group, we're going to be posting some stuff in there for the holidays. Hopefully, we'll be doing some deals for our merch. So, if you guys want to go
Stocking stuffers.
stocking stuffers, yeah, if you want a Who Raised You phone case,
Like
you
Christina
can,
does.
like Christina needs, because I'm just eyeing your phone.
I know.
Side eyeing
Living
it.
on the edge.
You really are. Then join our Facebook group so you can be up to date on all of the things coming down.
Yeah, and if you have stories, we're always looking for stories. We just asked for them on our shorty, but we really want holiday stories. Yeah. Did you take the wrong person to the office holiday party?
Yes. I want that one.
Did you bring the wrong person home for Thanksgiving?
Yes. Please.
Yes.
Oh my God. Like, my heart is actually like skipping a beat because those are the most exciting.
Also, I've had too much coffee, but yes, same.
Yes.
So awkward. So yeah, you can do all of that and more by going to our one-stop shop of a website at myworstdatepodcast.com. And thank you so much for listening. We love you.
Cheers.
This is a Glass Box Media Podcast.